my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. Well, we have a bizarre case. I'd like to thank my friend Mylene for bringing this to my attention. Mary Shotwell Little, Georgia Secretary's bizarre disappearance still unsolved. And it is really bizarre. 25-year-old Mary vanished in 1965, leaving behind a blood-stained car. On October 14th, 1965, so we're talking 60 years ago, 25-year-old Mary Shotwell Little brought groceries and had dinner with a woman she knew from work. The two parted ways that evening and nothing seemed amiss. However, Mary didn't show up for work the next day and a search for her was started. I'm going to shuffle the cards while I'm reading because then I'm putting the energy into the cards. They didn't find the missing woman, but they did find her vehicle, abandoned in a parking lot, with her groceries still inside and blood smeared on the front seats, steering wheel, and one of the windows. The car had a light coating of red dust on it, as if it had been driven down a dirt road, and an extra 40 miles on the odometer that couldn't be accounted for. Strange sightings would place Mary in another state, with mysterious men, where her gasoline card was used, but after this her trail goes cold. Shortly before she vanished, Mary had reportedly received a number of distressing calls at work. What she was overheard saying to this person suggested that she knew them, but the identity of the caller is still a mystery. Decades later, answers of any kind remain elusive in this bizarre case. So what happened to Mary Shotwell Little? One of two daughters, Mary Wallace Shotwell, was born on January 14, 1940, in Guilford County, North Carolina, to parents Nathan and Margaret. After graduating from East Carolina University, the bright and reliable Mary moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and became a secretary at Citizens and Southern National Bank. Can we just stop here for a moment? So she graduated from East Carolina University, and the best job she could get was a secretary. Those were the times. Anyways, I digress. It was here that she would meet her future husband, Roy H. Little Jr., who was the same age as her and was employed there as a bank examiner. The pair hit it off and got married in September 1965. Mere weeks before she vanished. Perceptions of their marriage varied to a fairly significant degree. Depending on who you ask, the couple either had a very loving relationship or Mary was unhappy with Roy. He was often away on business trips, but it's unclear if this was the source of strife in their relationship. As previously mentioned, Mary was said to have been receiving disturbing calls at work shortly before she went missing. No one knew who she was speaking to, but each time seemed to come away with these conversations unsettled. "I know I can't come over there," Mary was allegedly overheard saying during one such call. "Roy is out of town. I don't hold anything against you. You can come over to my house anytime, but I can't come over there." If this account is accurate, it sounds as if Mary knew this individual or even had a history with them. In another call, she reportedly said, "I'm a married woman now." Was this possibly someone she'd have a relationship with in the past? Furthermore, she received a bouquet of roses at work. The sender chose not to disclose their identity. Mary told friends that she was afraid to be alone, especially while driving, but didn't elaborate any further. This was notable to those who knew her, as she never expressed such fears before. On October 14th, 1965, Roy was out of town on business. He was supposed to return home that weekend when the couple planned to have guests over. Mary stopped at Colonial Grocery in Lenox Square and purchased supplies for this party. Afterwards, she met up with Ela Stock, a friend and co-worker. The two women had dinner at Piccadilly Cafeteria, also in Lenox Square. Mary appeared to be in good spirits, and Ela didn't sense anything off about her demeanor during their time together. They parted company at approximately 8 p.m. After this, Mary's movements are a mystery. When she failed to show up for work the following day, her boss, E.M. Rackety III, phoned her home and received no answer. Ela informed him that she'd last seen Mary in Lenox Square, so he called the security there and inquired as to whether or not her 1965 Mercury Comet was in the parking lot. Sources vary on what happened next, but either the security guards didn't locate her vehicle in the parking lot initially, and Rackley was actually the one to find it when he went in search of her, or one of the security guards did find it in the Lenox Square parking lot around 12:30 p.m. Regardless of who made the discovery, one thing was certain: the state of her car set off alarm bells. It appeared unlikely that Mary made it home the previous night, or perhaps was accosted immediately upon arrival, since her groceries were still in the Comet. A new pair of shoes, still in the box, was there as well. Roy kept track of the mileage on the car, not an uncommon practice at the time. Sidebar, my parents did the same, and was discovered that the odometer had an extra 40 miles on it, which couldn't be explained. This suggested that it had been driven away from Lenox Square and brought back later. But when? Blood was smeared around the interior. A slip, a bra, and a blood-stained pair of panties, all believed to belong to Mary, were found inside. Despite the alarming appearance of the bloody scene, it was the belief of Dr. Larry Howard that the amount of blood was equivalent to no more than what might be produced by a nosebleed and not indicative of a serious injury. Some officers speculated that the scene had been staged. Her purse and keys were missing and have never been located. A bloody fingerprint, not Mary's, was on the steering wheel, but the person to whom it belonged remains unknown. Roy was contacted and said he had no idea where his wife was and that he'd come home as soon as possible to aid in the search. An extensive search was carried out in woodland areas, vacant buildings, construction sites, bodies of waters, and vacant lots, but to no avail. Disturbing sightings. The most important development in the case so far occurred when investigators found out that Mary's gasoline card had been used in the early morning hours of October 15th in two different cities in North Carolina, Charlotte and Raleigh, each of which is hundreds of miles away from Atlanta. Handwriting experts determined that the signatures on the receipts were likely Mary's. Detectives traveled to these gas stations and questioned the attendants. Remember those good old days? The Charlotte gas station attendant stated that Mary had been curled up in the front seat of the car and had attempted to hide her face using a road map. She had blood on her clothing and appeared to have sustained a head injury. There was an unknown man with her. The attendant found this encounter disturbing and noted down the license plate number of their car, which turned out to be a vehicle that had been stolen shortly before she vanished. Though Mary had family in Charlotte, none of them had seen or heard from her while she was apparently in the area. The attendant in Raleigh gave a very similar account, except that he claimed to have spotted two men with Mary, not just one. According to him, she had a towel wrapped around her head and had blood on her. The mystery men were said to have been commanding her, although exactly what these commands were uncertain. The authorities were unable to track them or the stolen car any further, and Mary's trail once again went cold. Detective Superintendent Clinton Chapin: "We're working on all possibilities of what could have happened. Because of the evidence, it appears that foul play is the best theory available right now, and that's only a theory." Roy's alibi was quickly confirmed, and he was ruled out as a person of interest in his wife's disappearance. Though he hadn't been in the area when she vanished, this didn't eliminate the possibility that he hired someone to abduct her, but no evidence to support this theory was ever found. While investigators didn't necessarily believe that Roy was responsible in any way, they reportedly found his manner disconcerting. He was cold and aloof, they said, and strangely unperturbed by her disappearance. The FBI also joined in the investigation. You have to drag everything out of Roy, said Jem Ponder, the FBI's liaison with local law enforcement. He didn't volunteer anything. Others believe that Mary's job was in some way connected to her disappearance. Allegedly, there had been rumors of a prostitution ring being run from the bank, as well as a lesbian harassment, whatever this means. Was she silenced because she knew too much? And even if those allegations were untrue, it's important to reiterate that Mary had received the strange calls, a mysterious bouquet of flowers, only while at work, not at home. Additionally, another woman who had worked as a secretary at Citizens and Southern's National Bank would be murdered 2 years later. So Mary's place of employment could be a significant piece of the puzzle. We'll be reading on that. Police officers questioned the local florist who handled the order for Mary's roses, but they couldn't recall who had placed it, unfortunately. Investigators also considered the possibility that a jilted lover had sought revenge against her. For his part, Roy didn't think that his wife had been involved with another man during their marriage. Not only that, he said, but she had never had a serious relationship before she met him either, which was false. She was actually engaged. She was friendly and polite to others, Roy said, but that was as far as it went. She was one of those wonderful girls who liked people and they liked her. Yet the police investigation into her background would reveal that Mary had been engaged once before to another man in Atlanta, but the two supposedly split there's one of those words. I'm reading too fast. It's caught up with me. They split as friends before she started dating Roy. This man's name wasn't released to the public. She had no known enemies and was well liked, which only made her case grow more puzzling to law enforcement and her loved ones. She was what I would call a very fine employee, remembered Rackley. She was an excellent secretary. She took dictation as fast as I could talk. If I was going on a trip, she'd make reservations for me even before I asked her to. If she had such a weakness, it was trying to do too much. Mary's family was heartbroken and offered a reward in the hope that someone would come forward with relevant information. We'd give anything we have and possibly will get, home and everything else, to get her back, said her mother. Nothing we have means anything to us this way. A local woman named Carolyn Smithersman notified police of an eerie incident that had taken place on the day that Mary went missing. Carolyn, too, had been shopping in Lenox Square on October 14th, and after leaving the store, she noticed she was being followed by a man. She hurried to her car and locked herself inside. "If you think you're going to get in my car, you're crazy," she told the stranger. He knocked on the window and said, "Your back tire is low." Carolyn drove to the nearest service station and was told her tires appeared to be fine. Jim Ponder believed that the same man might have abducted Mary. Shortly after his wife went missing, Roy got a phone call from someone demanding $20,000 in ransom money for the safe return of Mary. The FBI sent an agent who resembled Roy to the arranged meeting place, but the anonymous man was no longer there, and the agent found only a blank piece of paper attached to a sign. Roy never heard from this individual again, and the authorities suspected that this was merely a hoax or the work of an opportunist who had no real connection to Mary's disappearance. A woman named Diane Shields took over Mary's position as secretary in the wake of her absence. She also lived with the same roommates as Mary had prior to her marriage to Roy. For unknown reasons, Diane eventually left that job and began working in an office downtown, but allegedly confided to a friend that she was working undercover to solve the case of a missing woman named Mary. Then the 20-year-old vanished and was found murdered in the trunk of her car on May 19th, 1967. A scarf had been stuffed down her throat. She was fully clothed and hadn't been raped. Diane had reportedly received a bouquet of roses from an anonymous sender shortly before her murder. The similarities between the two women led law enforcement to wonder if the same perpetrators was responsible in both cases. Detective C.J. Strickland believes so. Strangely, Mary's mother supposedly asked Strickland to stop investigating her case. She told me she didn't want the investigation into her daughter's disappearance pursued any further, he said. But why? Strickland speculated that Mary was still alive and that she'd made contact with her parents at some point. He encouraged the FBI to tap their phone, but they refused. Conversely, Ponder said that Margaret actually never gave up on trying to find her daughter and was devastated by her loss. She calls from time to time. She gets pretty upset. She's never gotten over it. The murder of Diane Shields is also still unsolved. Mary was never officially declared dead, but Roy eventually obtained a divorce and remarried. It's not clear when, though. The bizarre nature of her case has inspired a strange range of theories. Some investigators felt certain that she was abducted and murdered, but others were less sure of this. Homicide detective John Cameron. I've thought about this many, many times over the years. Based on my experience in these cases, I simply don't believe she's dead. Can I explain why she did it? No, but there must be an explanation. But her loved ones felt that there was no way she'd ever stage her disappearance and run away. I think she was abducted by a pervert, said Captain W.K. Jack Perry, who was the lead investigator of her case for many years until his retirement. Even after he had retired, he was still haunted by her disappearance and the lack of answers. There were times I thought we were so close. We'd get tips from people, but the leads really began to fade out around 1975 or 1976. Sadly, Mary's parents and her sister Judy have all since passed away, never having found out what happened to her. Much of the evidence and the original case files have been lost as well. That does sound a little bit like corruption, doesn't it? The circumstances surrounding the strange disappearance of Mary Shotwell Little, as well as her fate, remain unknown. So I hope you found that kind of fascinating. A couple of things going on there. I thought this would be a perfect one to read on. Like, we can ask, did she stage her disappearance? Right? I mean, if there was something going on at the bank, maybe she was threatened and she thought, I better disappear. Or was she kidnapped? I mean, obviously she wasn't kidnapped because they never did any follow-up, and the FBI did afterwards feel like it was a hoax or an opportunist. So let's ask, did she stage her disappearance? Ooh, interesting. Death in reverse. 9 of Pentacles in reverse. No, she did not. I'm not even going to pull any other cards. No, she did not. We got the Death card there. And the 9 of Pentacles in reverse, meaning she was unsuccessful. So even if she did want to stage her own disappearance, she wasn't successful at it. She actually ended up dying. Is this a murder case or... let's just ask, let's back up here. That kind of shocked me right off the start. And I trust those cards because I've been putting the energies into it. Was this something to do with the bank? Was this something to do with the bank and what was going on? Ooh, judgment, justice, not yes, it was. 2 of Pentacles in reverse, distraction. And 5 of Swords. Look at that, it's the same lady. That's a, I'm going to say yes because this is justice. Somebody was trying to take justice into their own hands. and made the whatever it was, abduction, the disappearance was the distraction. Now nobody's looking at what's going on at the bank. They're trying to look and see what happened to Mary. It's the same person. It's the same person. Win the battle but lose the war. So they got rid of one, and then there was another one who popped up. Two. Yes, this did have something to do with the bank. Can you tell us how long did Mary live afterwards? 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 Can you tell us? Four of Pentacles in reverse. 4 months. There's the Sun in reverse. I'm going to say 4 months. 4 months. Pentacles aren't weeks. Wands are weeks. Swords are days. Pentacles can also be years, but does that explain? I mean, is it 4 years? Because that's the Sun, and the Sun does a full year. Also, Sun does days too, or 1 season. Did she contact her parents? Is that why they called it off? Did she contact her parents? Is that why she said, please stop investigating it? Because they didn't want her to be found. No. No. That's a hard no. 3 of Pentacles. They had other reasons to do that. No. I'm going to say no. Mary did not contact her parents. There was other reasons for that. There was other reasons for that. Perhaps they didn't want to know she's dead, right? As long as you're looking for her, she's still alive, right? There was other reasons for that. But no. Are the two cases connected? Are the two cases connected? Are the two cases connected? Oh, King of Wands. That would be a bully at work. That would be your boss. The King of Wands is your boss. Oh, look at that. Work. 8 of Pentacles. And the Emperor. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Two men here. And look at that. They said that second vehicle were 2 men. The Emperor and the King of Wands actually can be the same person. They're Aries. And ooh, look at that. Also would be like a bad boss, a bully boss. We have to remember back then, women had, actually employees, had very little rights. If your boss bossed you around, or asked you to do things that weren't on, I mean, there was no such thing as a job description. It was, if your boss wanted you to pour him a drink, you poured him a drink. You didn't say it's not my job description. I think it was a very rotten place to work. I think it was ruled by bullies. I think it was just a really bad place to work. I'm going to say, yeah, the cases are connected because the boss is here, and this guy here has a hunting rifle. He was a hunter. And look at this one here is holding a body. It's in reverse. So I'm going to say yes. And also this is the work card. This is your job card, and it's in reverse. I'm going to say, yeah, the two are connected because it was such a brutal place to work. And these bosses, if you were to give them up, you'd be hunted down. Were they running a prostitution ring? Were they running? And that's what I mean, like the corruption. We have to remember back then in those days, you could own the sheriff if you had enough money. Yeah, you could. Was there a prostitution ring? Was there a prostitution ring? This was rotten right from the top, and these girls had nobody to watch them. Well, here's the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands, lots of movement. We have 2 8s now. Oh, High Priestess. Secrets being communicated. And now we have the King of Swords. I'm going to say, yes. And the reason why is because this Divine Feminine is in reverse. Also, the secrets being revealed. The secrets being revealed. I'm going to say there was a crooked judge, allegedly, as well, involved. I'm going to say, yeah. So if there was a prostitution ring, we have to remember how legal prostitution was. A judge. We even can have a cop here. King of Wands can be a uniformed police officer. I mean, just think, you would need these people on board so that there would be no charges or there'd be no arrests. And here we have the female in reverse. And the High Priestess upright is also virginal, right? It's the Shekinah. It's also virginal. In reverse, it's the furthest thing from virginity. I'm not even going to ask, will this case be ever solved? Because isn't that interesting that they've lost evidence? Wouldn't that be interesting to have those bloodied underwear items and run them for DNA? Wouldn't that be interesting? Or the thumbprint, to run that, knowing the big, huge database they have now. You know what? I just realized, I wonder, was Mary kept as a working girl for a while? Was Mary kept for a working girl, as a working girl for a while? Like we have to remember there was no such thing like cell phones, or was Mary kept as a working girl for a while? Remember, she was young. She was 25. Oh, she was all alone. She was very lonely. And no, she was not. No, she was not. Will Mary's body ever be found? I mean, even if she was alive, she'd be 85 by now. She would have had plenty of time to tell somebody she's alive. This is me. Will Mary's body ever be found? Will Mary's body be ever... They found the other girl. She was found in the trunk of the vehicle. It is connected. There is definitely some weird things going on between the police, the judge, and the bank. I'm going to say the working girls. Look at... yeah. I'm going to say there's the 2 girls that were murdered. Will they ever find Mary's body? I don't even know if that bank is still around. 5 of Cups in reverse. And, oh, Ace of Cups. I think they will. I think someday her body will be found. I think yes. They will find her body at some point. Can you give us a clue where her body is? Can you give us a clue where her body is? Can you give us a clue where her body is? Queen of Pentacles in reverse. It's outside. It's in a forest. And the Magician. Well, if it's outside in a forest, and the Magician is here, I'm going to say it's changed form. So, in other words, animals got to it, right? Time, weather. I'm going to say that I wonder if like somebody will just find like a human skull or an arm bone or something out hiking, or they buy a plot of land to build a house or something like that. But she's outdoors in a forest. She's in a wooded area, and I know there's lots of wooded areas around there, lots. And with the Magician being here, I'm going to say her body is significantly changed. Significantly changed. So animals, right? Especially if it was on top. This Magician was in reverse. I might even say that she's underground. I don't believe she is. I believe that with this Magician upright, her body's changed, and the only way that could have happened is if she's laying on top, and weather and time and animals and whatnot. But yeah, the cards say she'll eventually be found. Somebody will find something, and they'll have to piece it all together. Interesting, her parents and her sister are now passed, so how would they do the DNA to check to see it was her? I'm sure she must have nieces, nephews, other cousins, and whatnot. Interesting case. So yes, it is all connected at work. Yeah, there's the two girls. I'm going to say yes, it did have a lot to do with females. This Eight of Pentacles here almost looks like she's tied down, and she has to doing work that she's doesn't want to do. Not successful at it, not making a lot of money on it. And here's the spilled secrets, the communications, the spilled secrets. And you think about it, so maybe that's why Mary said, I'm not coming to your place. Perhaps it was a brothel, right? Why wouldn't she? But you can come to my home. I'm not coming to your home, but you can come to my home anytime. I'm not coming to your place. So was it a brothel? Is that why Mary wouldn't go? Was it a brothel? And that's why she says, I'm a married woman now. Was it a brothel? Whoever was calling her, was it a brothel? Joy, happiness. And the Chariot in reverse. Might have been somebody's home. And she had no control once she got there. Right? My wife and kids are there. Like, I'm not coming there. Your wife and kids are there. I'm not doing that. And then she would have no control when she got there. Interesting, this is in reverse, because upright is get in the car, right? It's in reverse. All right, well, very interesting. One day her body will be found. She wasn't kept as a working girl. It was something funky going on at the bank, and she did communicate it to somebody. What's the underlying? Oh, the devil. There it is. Chained. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Over and out.